Okay. Hi, everyone. This is Teresa Vanderbilt with the Revised MnCHOICES application launch webinar for Wednesday, March 8th. I am your host for today. Welcome very much to today's conversation. This is the list of the MnCHOICES team who is on the call today to support me, as well as they write content for our slides as well. So big thanks out to this team for their hard work and all the support that they bring to today's call. This session is being recorded, so we record it so that you can listen to it later in the DSD archive, and it is recorded as a YouTube recording, so you get both the sound and the picture with it. We have you all on mute. When we get to question and answer, I'll have you raise your hand. We'll call on you and then unmute you. Please know that any questions and answers that you put in the question and answer panel are captured and shared with supervisors so that you're aware of that. I am thrilled today to welcome our Assistant Commissioner for Aging and Disability Services, Natasha Mertz. She would like to have an opportunity to address you today for DHS. So Natasha, welcome.
Thank you very much, Teresa, and thank you for this opportunity to speak with all of you today. As Teresa said, my name is Natasha Mertz, and I'm the Assistant Commissioner for Aging and Disability Services here at the department. And I wanted to take some time today to just reflect on what we've been hearing in the department from all levels of our lead agencies about the revision and the launch. And it's getting real, right? Like MnCHOICES revision is getting real, and with that is coming concerns and stress, fear of the unknown. And so I just wanted to make sure that I'm communicating that we are hearing those concerns. One of the biggest concerns that we are hearing and have heard is that the revised application will not be working as perfectly as we want it to at launch, and there will be some required workarounds for some functions in the application at the time of launch. And I understand, and we certainly hear loud and clear that any workaround that we ask you to do is going to create stress. It's going to cause you to take more time while you're also learning how to use the new application, which in itself will take time. And that we hear you, and we're committed to working with all of you and supporting you through the transition, because I know that we all share the same goal of wanting to have a really good assessment process for the people that are being assessed, and make sure that the assessment process facilitates accurate eligibility results and facilitates a really good conversation about how we can use services to support an individual in the field. And so, I want to say that when we hear concerns about workaround and, the extra time it's going to take, what's really under that kind of the second story is that you all are concerned about the impact this is going to have on people that you serve, Minnesotans that need services, and what that's going to look like. So it's not that, we're hearing concerns about it's going to be more work for you. And while that may be true, we're also, at the heart of that, or what's always behind that concern, is concern about the impact for people. And we share those concerns, with you, and want to make sure that we're working collaboratively to listen to what you have to say and help us understand the reality of, being in the field, doing those assessments. And we're committed to working with you throughout this transition process. It's also, I think, important context to know that a major transition like this to a revised application is expected to be difficult. It's not easy. It is complicated. There are difficult trade-offs that we have to make, and decisions in order to get to the point where we can make the revised application, available to you all to use to conduct assessments. One of the things that's really different is that we're moving from the 1.0, the current MnCHOICES, which was built by our partners in Minute, to the revised application is a off-the-shelf vendor-hosted application. So we're working with our vendor FEI to create the application and the user interface. And this is a different type of product than we've ever had in MnCHOICES or in assessment. And so that transition in and of itself is requiring us to do our work differently and communicate with you all in a different way, which also, again, things that are new and unknown can create stress and worry. The other big thing that's happening, as you all know, is that it brings some of our lead agencies into the system for the first time, which also means changes to workflow and workloads that contribute to that overall stress. We expected, definitely in the department, that preparing for the MnCHOICES launch would come with some really tough decisions, as I talked about, some difficult trade-offs. Last August, we announced that we had determined a launch date for revised MnCHOICES after developing that schedule with FEI, with our vendor. Since that time, as we've moved towards launch, we've identified defects and other issues within the system, and we've had to really weigh pros and cons about whether to fix a particular issue prior to launching the system or put our launch date at risk, or whether we can implement a system that has some of those workarounds. Again, because sometimes when we talk about defects, we have to have a workaround to address that if it's not something that we can address before launch. So what we're always doing and doing with your input is weighing the benefits of launching on time, even with an imperfect system, against the risk of further delays and sort of never getting to that new application. And that's been the really, one of our challenges is figuring out with input from partners how to strike that balance. And it's frustrating to have to make these choices, but it is, what we're learning as we work in this commercial off-the-shelf product is this is very typical and expected part of large IT systems implementation. And so we've had to get better at putting systems and structures in place to be able to weigh those choices effectively, make decisions, and keep us moving towards the goal of launching. So where we are right now is we are in code freeze, and FEI, our vendor, is focused on getting the production environment ready for launch. Once we actually launch and you all start going into the system and learning how to use it and conducting assessments, the vendor will shift their focus to developing regular releases to addressing defects and issues as they've been prioritized by the Systems Governance Group, or the SGG. We know that fixing these issues and defects after launch is incredibly important to lead agencies, and I want to thank everyone who has played a role in helping us prioritize which fixes should go first, what order they should go in, and how quickly we can get them accomplished. So DHS has included representatives from each type of lead agency in that SGG process where they are weighing and prioritizing the which fix goes first, second, third, fourth, fifth, for example, in those iterative releases. And that includes, again, the post-launch fixes that will happen after we get to launch. Over the past few months, the SGG group has spent several meetings reviewing each post-launch issue, and as I said before, ranking them as high, medium, and low priority. And then we are using these recommended priorities to guide our work with the vendor to determine, again, that schedule for the post-launch fixes that will happen through regular releases. While we know there will be issues and workarounds with the system at launch, again, we are committed to supporting you and lead agencies with those until they can be fixed. And just really want to appreciate that we are partners in this work. We want you to be successful because we know that when you're successful, people get better access to services and supports that they need to remain in their communities. In February, we announced a phased launch plan, or we're sometimes calling it a rolling launch plan, which will allow lead agencies to gradually increase the number of users in the system. The plan also extended the transition period from the current MnCHOICES to the revised application to August 31, 2023, to allow lead agencies more time to finish work in all their existing systems and have good planful transitions over to the revised application. The phase launch also allows for more training time. I know that has been another key piece of feedback that we've received, is that, until you're in that training environment, it's really hard to know how you're going to do your work and plan your transition. We're also looking at, based on that feedback, what else can we do to address concerns surrounding the launch? So just know that we're having that conversation at different levels of DHS almost on a daily basis at this point in the project. and really working. And I'm certainly keeping my commissioner updated, that those are just, again, those are the almost daily conversations that we're having. And many of you are a part of those conversations. Want to also just quickly mention that post-launch of what type of support will be available for all of you. So you'll have the ability to submit questions via a help desk form, which will then be routed to the appropriate subject matter expert to address. MnCHOICES office hours will be held on alternating months, so April, June, August, October, and December. We'll continue, or we'll implement monthly post-launch webinars through September 13, 2023, and have MnCHOICES call-in sessions in April and May. So I hope that that's some helpful context for all of you about where we are and how we're thinking about how we're doing our work, how we're listening and responding to concerns being raised about the launch timeline. And it's natural that at this point in the process, that's where people's time, attention, and focus is going. That's totally appropriate and reasonable. But I also want to, before I close, identify some things that are working really well and some of the benefits that we'll see with the revised application, with the launch. So first is that we have really been so appreciative of the level of engagement, again, at all levels of lead agency organizations on helping us partner to get to a successful launch date. Lead agencies were involved in user acceptance testing, included in our systems governance process, and being asked to provide input on the launch plan. We've, again, just very much appreciated the dedication and the commitment to getting this done and the immense amount of time it takes, and look forward to continuing this level of collaboration and communication going forward. And finally, there are some great things about this revised application that we really want to get. We want to get to the point where you all see the benefits that we see as we've been working in the production environment. So we expect that the new application is going to provide a cohesive system that allows lead agencies to use one single application for all long-term care services and supports, assessment and support planning. The revised application will offer internal messaging system, built-in notifications, and help desks, offers querying abilities, and supports transferring cases across lead agencies. It's going to include up-to-date information about a person's healthcare, including their medical assistant status. And it's going to track support plan provider signature requirement compliance, which I know has been a pain point over the years. So overall, we really feel confident that this platform will provide a better experience for you all as users. And understanding that these types of big transitions are never easy, we want you to know that you have our support and you are our key and vital partners in this work. Please continue to provide us with feedback in the days leading up to launch, after we launch, and as we move into this new phase of work together. So thank you so much. Thank you for all you do to support Minnesotans.
Thank you, Assistant Commissioner Natasha Mertz, for your comments today. It is very much appreciated.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Sure. So I would like to just go ahead and move forward and talk a little bit about where we're headed today and what we're going to talk about. These are objectives that you've seen across all of the launch webinars. Our goal for these launch webinars are really to make sure you understand and are able to communicate release schedules, content management, any kind of changes you need to know for your agency, to learn about the tools and the computer application so you can complete your work in the field, understand workflow, and ensure handoffs. We want to make sure you can apply your knowledge to the revised MnCHOICES application's functioning to inform and implement work plans that you need to do for your agencies, and then implement the transition timeline and the use of historical documents as you move from the MnCHOICES assessment and support plan applications to the revised MnCHOICES application. And then part of what we're going to talk about today is to update staff data to implement user access at launch. And so these have really been kind of the key objectives for what we've been working on over the last year or so. So this is today's agenda, and I want to take a moment and say welcome to the lead agency security liaisons who may be joining us today. From time to time that we have them join us as we talk about user access. So today we're going to talk about user access, adding and managing users, a temporary process for those folks that you need to add since October of 2022 through April 3rd, and then how ongoing adding users and managing users will work, just to make sure we're all on the same page. And then we're going to talk a little bit about how your users are going to be notified that they have access and that we're ready to go, and provide you any other kind of instructions that you need. And then lastly, I want to look at the historical data for the transition period again, just to make sure you understand as you're working in the two systems and then you're moving to the revised MnCHOICES application, kind of what statuses your documents need to be in, and other things like that, to make sure that that historical data is captured and added as attachments to a person record. And then lastly, I've got just a few updates that I want to make sure that I talk about and give you some updates on, because I know you've got a couple pieces that you've been wondering about, and we feel like we can provide you some answers to them today. So today's term, just to make sure that we're level setting and everyone's all on the same page. If I speak about lead agencies, I'm talking about county, tribal, nations, and managed care organizations. If you hear me or see in a slide MNA, that's the current MnCHOICES assessment application. If you hear me say or see on a slide MNSP, that's the current MnCHOICES support plan application. Also, you're going to hear the term onboard, and that is just something, it's shorthand for us. It's a DHS spreadsheet that was used to collect all your users and their IDs and their information about their roles, and we collected that in October, and it is a one-time load that we used to put staff in the revised MnCHOICES database. And it's really just your lead agency's list of all those staff members. So just so if I use the term onboard shorthand, you know what I'm talking about. So let's talk a little bit about user access and adding and managing users. This topic comes up, right? Because like I said, you in October gave us your onboarding sheets, and then we got those prepared, and then FEI Systems has loaded them. But we know there's that time period between October to when we launch that you're wondering what to do with users. And then after launch, how do you add and manage users? So I just want to make sure we have a chance to walk through that. Then I'll provide an opportunity for questions on that topic to make sure that's all covered. And then at that point, if security liaisons want to drop from the call, they can, because this is a section where we'll really spend the time, but you're welcome to stay. I would say through how do your staff know that they have access, I think would be most useful, but I'll mention it again when we get there. So again, just back up a second, where we started from, level setting, right? So DHS spreadsheet went to lead agencies and you returned them to us. Then the vendor loaded your users into the production environment as they are preparing it for go live, for when we actually go live. And you've hired people and they've changed their names, or they've no longer are working for your agency, and you're like, what are we going to do with these folks? So one thing I want you to know is part of what you're going to hear me do is go through the instructions that sit in the Smart Guide production, adding staff and managing access, that's in the revised MnCHOICES application help center. And I'm making you aware of that so that if you later go, gosh, I can't remember how to do this, I'm not sure what to do about that. A lovely part about the Smart Guides is they really are a step-by-step walkthrough of a specific topic that you need to know how to do. So please refer to this one when you're thinking about adding and managing staff in the production environment. It is where you will find the steps, and it is part of what I used for reference for today's slides. So let's talk a little bit about lead agency security admins. Um, it appears I picked up I, I picked this up before I fixed it. That's why you heard me breathe out for a second. So this really is a two-part process. What's going to happen is a lead agency security admin role, whoever is given that role, whether it's the security liaison or someone they have said, yep, you can add staff to the system. What they will do is first that person will add staff to the system, and then the security liaison will go to the service hub and complete the ticket for access to MnCHOICES. Okay, so one person or the same person can add people to the system and then go to the service hub. Whoever has access to that service hub will then put in a ticket. And the reason why it's a two-step process is that the security system and access management team is really the one who ensures staff have everything done that they need to do to have access to a state system. So they have a correct ID, or they give them a new one if they're new. And then they also then make sure their data privacy practices are done, and they review them across other systems as well to make sure access and everything is thought through correctly. And the SAM team is the team that actually activates an account. Okay, so they do the other side of once you've added the person in the system, they'll activate them. So the lead agency admin has very limited access to the system, basically just enough to add new staff, so to put the required information in their profile, to assign a staff member's location and roles, and then they can edit staff member profiles, and then they can edit organization and location information if something's in error, if an address is in error, if a phone number is wrong, if the email has changed, things like that. So their role is limited to issues around access for your organization and its locations. So let's talk a little bit about what that looks like. And I'm just reviewing this, and it is also in a train link in the managing MnCHOICES or overseeing MnCHOICES. There's a piece on user access. And so I'm just going to talk about this a little bit and about how it works. So if you have that lead agency admin role, when you log in, you will go to be able to add staff, you'll go to your My Profile, you'll click it'll take you to this page. So see, this is the person, and then you will click on the organization link. And when you do that, it will take you to your organization and you'll see the staff members icon. Okay, so you're going My Profile, it'll show you your profile. You'll click on the link that's in that profile, and then it will take you here. And the reason why it needs to be done like that is because the lead agency security admin has no search functions. They don't really see anything from my dashboard. They have very limited access. So once they click on that DHS, once they hear how, I'm going to go back and just show you what they've clicked on. So they'll click on the staff members icon here for the organization. And it'll display all the staff members that are currently in your agency. Okay. If you're not sure if someone has been added, if they were on the onboarding spreadsheet, you can always go here and search for the staff and see if they're showing up versus submitting them in and then finding out they're already have access. You could save yourself some work and search for them here, because what will happen next is if they're not in the list, then you will use the new staff member to add them into the system directly. So you will need system access. That's why we said to all lead agencies, you needed at least one security admin on your onboarding spreadsheet so that they would be able to do this work at launch. When you click that Add New Staff Member button, what will happen is you'll get a new staff member window will appear. It's going to ask for some really basic information. First name, last name, gender. Gender includes not known or unanswered, and then job title. And those are the ones that are required fields, and you know they're required because they have an asterisk and this yellow band that is on the left-hand side of that field. So once that information has been completed, then you click Save. One piece to know is that if you have certified assessors, you will be able to put in some basic credential information as well. The only choice for credentials is initial certification. Don't worry about that because credentials are associated with a database. The database will load their credential information later. You'll need to make sure that you say their assessor. And my recommendation is for issuer name that you just put DHS. Then you will need to put in the correct train link ID because the train link ID is what will update the certified assessor's credentials. You do not need to put the effective and start date. As you can see, they're not required fields because we have a data load that will load that information based on the train link ID. So the train link ID is very important to have correct. You will also in that username put in their email, and specifically for both email and phone number, you will want to make sure that you mark it as primary. Email and phone number are really what you need to do when you set up a staff member to make sure that they have what they need, what you need to set up the person, what the SAM team will need to be able to activate the person. So they need to have their phone number and their email. They both need to be marked primary. If it is a certified assessor, filling out those areas for credentials will also be key. So then what will happen is that person will get added to the system. And what you'll see happen is you will go to their profile and you'll need to assign their location and roles as that lead agency admin. And so you will need to make sure that any request for additional staff has that information for you. And location is basically who pays their paycheck. So for contracted case management, in this example here with Anoka County, the person would be Meridian Services Anoka, or in this case, they're being assigned Accord Anoka. And so you just need to make sure that when you manage the assigned location, that you pick the agency that they are working for on behalf of your lead agency, if it's a delegate or contracted case management. If it's your lead agency directly, then in this example, I would pick Anoka if my staff were that. And the reason why you need to have an assigned location complete as part of this work is to ensure that when they go to log in, they won't get a message that says, you're not authorized. And they may get that because they don't have the location assigned. So making sure location and role assignment is complete just makes it easier for them to log in and not to have somebody like a lead agency supervisor have to go back and fix it or add roles or assign locations. So I'm trying to give you the most efficient workflow possible. So after you've added the location, you're going to see at the end of the location, let me see if I can show you. Oh, so if the location will show up here, and at the end of it, there'll be a little ellipsis, and it's going to look like this. When you click on that location ellipsis, it's going to give you this drop-down menu, and you're going to be able to manage assigned roles. So you'll click Manage Assigned Roles, and what it's going to give you is a list of roles that you could give that person that are available for that person for the location that you chose. So county staff will have roles that are theirs, a delegate staff member, so someone who works for, I'm going to make something up, Becker Blue Plus will have a specific roles that will be available to them. And so it'll be very specific to that kind of location relationship on the roles that you can pick for that person. So then what happens is you choose the plus sign to add the role. If for some reason a role needs to change, you use the minus sign and it'll remove it. And then you hit close. Whoops. Sorry. The Minnesota Service Hub tickets will continue to be used. I just wanted to show you. We are editing them. This is just an example of a edit, pretend edit. So the new ticket will have MnCHOICES. It won't, and it'll have a support plan ticket as well for that transition period. But you'll be able to pick MnCHOICES from the hub ticket and complete the form so that you can go ahead and request access from the SAM team. And you'll have to, of course, fill out the required fields. I just wanted you aware that as of day of launch, the updated tickets will include both the MnCHOICES support plan ticket and the MnCHOICES revised MnCHOICES ticketing system, so you can request access for both. The other piece that you need to be aware of is we've heard from several lead agencies, like we're going to have a lot of people that we need to add to the system. And so what you're hearing us say is you will add your staff members as lead agency security admin in the revised MnCHOICES application at launch. You'll add them one at a time into the system. Then you'll go to the ticketing system for SAM. And what the SAM team has done is they've created a bulk user request form so that you can put up to no less than 5 people and no more than 25 staff members attached to a SAM ticket versus doing the tickets one by one in the Minnesota Service Hub. We're excited about this opportunity. It makes it so it's a little less unwieldy for you. They aren't able to do more than 25 staff members because they want to make sure that they are timely about your access requests. And so 25 at a time is what is the most it can do. No less than 5, because once you get at 5 or less, you can do them individually one at a time. Our goal is to have this bulk user request form open until May the 15th. So to give you some serious amount of time to add your staff and to collect them and request the access into the system. So you will find this request at the Minnesota Service Hub I need access, and you'll look for the MnCHOICES bulk user request form, and you can then attach it to the system or to the ticket, sorry. So you may have some other updates that you need to do, right? Like, yeah, the staff are in there, but maybe their location or roles have changed. Maybe the staff member's profile needs some updates and you're wondering who can do that? What does that look like? So for location roles, both the lead agency admin and all supervisors can make changes to roles. So if you've put in roles and you learn later, oh, this person needs this role too, it's easy enough for you to go in, search for the staff member and make those changes. And then again, if there are staff member profile changes that need to be made, those two lead agency admins and the supervisor roles, which is delegate supervisor, contract case management supervisor, and lead agency supervisor, can all make those changes. So you don't have to put them in the ticketing system. You can do them yourselves. And then in regards to credentials, credentials are updated from TrainLink, MnCAT certification and recertification. So when you're done with your when people are done with their TrainLink courses for certification for certified assessors, it reports to a database. That database loads to the system nightly. So if the TrainLink ID is correct, the data will move over. And if for some reason that person were to change who they worked for, the system is able to accommodate that as well. If for some reason you would see incorrect data in your credentials for a staff member, you will submit a MnCHOICES help desk ticket. Only DHS can correct that data by correcting the database directly. We have been monitoring that data for about almost a year now, but at least solidly 6 months, cleaning it up, making sure that it is all correct. But if for any reason you see incorrect data when we launch, please submit it in through the MnCHOICES help desk ticket, and then we will go to the database and revise or edit those changes. So one thing I need to make you aware of is what happens when somebody leaves the system, no longer works for you, and you're wondering what to do. The first piece I need to make sure that you're aware of is there are actually Minnesota Enterprise Standard requirements for termination and resignation. I'm including them here. They're also on the SMART guide. So you can see that for termination, where you terminate an employee, you need to have their access removed 1 day after termination. If a staff member resigns or moves to a different position, then you have 8 days from their last day of work to remove them from a system, and then that's your responsibility to make sure that's done. We are looking at, there's an expectation that you'll monitor that. We are also looking at potentially providing you reports when we see that people haven't been removed and we're wondering if they should be because we're seeing they're not active. Okay. So to deactivate staff, you'll follow again that SMART guide. The one thing you'll need to, of course, make sure first is that you've reassigned all their caseload and you removed all their assigned locations from that staff member. And then you can submit a SAM ticket in and they will deactivate just like they activated the staff, they'll deactivate them. So I want to take a moment and answer any questions that you might have. And then what we're going to talk about next is, just so security liaisons are aware, we're going to talk about the day of launch. How will people know their accounts are activated? So first, let's just talk a little bit about what I just talked about, which is related to user access. Do you have any questions that you would like to put forward at this time? Beth, I know you.
Folks,
Yep,
yep,
go ahead.
just to remind folks, raise your hand and we can call on you and unmute you. We have a question from Don Sulland. And Don, I'm going to unmute you. Hi, Don.
Two questions, if that's okay. One is the security liaison work or the lead agency admin. Are they able to wear multiple hats in the system? Like, could they be a care coordinator and a lead agency admin, or are they limited if they are a lead agency admin? They are not able to see like member info and wear other hats.
Right. So I think the question really is, so for your agency, you'll choose who's a security liaison and you'll have put in the form to SAM for that. And then you'll determine, for example, if you have a staff person who you want to be security liaison for this application and you want them to be able to do other work because they're a supervisor or they may do other things. They could have other roles. Then how they view access will look a little different, but they still need to follow the steps that I laid out to ensure that they add people correctly. You can choose to give them other roles as well in the system.
Perfect. And then my other question is, are delegate agencies able to do any of the lead agency security admin work in the MnCHOICES platform as far as setting up their staff?
Nope, neither delegates nor contracted case management can, and here's the reason why. So lead agencies are responsible for user access. They're responsible for the contracts they have with agencies and saying, yes, this person should have access, or no, they shouldn't. And so from a kind of systems standpoint, it's your agency saying, yes, this person should have access, no, they shouldn't have access. And that's just kind of the security access requirements for the state.
That makes perfect sense. Thank you so much.
Sure, thank you for asking.
Okay, next we have, although I don't have a last name, it's Karen. Karen, I'm going to unmute you. Hi, Karen.
So I guess mine added a two-part question based on that last answer. All of our security liaisons are new staff, so they were not on the spreadsheet. So I'm thinking that that might create some problems for us. I'm also heard that, or maybe I'm misunderstanding, through SAM, they are very restrictive on how many security liaisons a county can have. Is there a way to get a security liaison for just MnCHOICES? And then also, what about with ours that we have right now are not on the spreadsheet? What do we do to get them the access that they need in order to get us the access we need? Thank you.
It's a very good question, right? I mean, so here's what I heard you saying. I heard a couple of questions and I'll answer them one at a time. We have security liaisons who aren't on our onboarding spreadsheet. How do we get them on so that we can add staff? How many security liaisons can we have? And could you have a security liaison that's just MnCHOICES? That's the three I believe I heard you say. So let's answer not on the spreadsheet. Your agency currently has security liaisons that you use for other systems. Have that security liaison. Okay, so first a couple things. To request a new security liaison, there's a specific ticket inside the Minnesota Service Hub to request those. So have your current security liaison complete that ticket and do the documentation that's necessary to add a security liaison that you may want just for the revised MnCHOICES application. And you've had that conversation within your agency and leadership, and everyone's saying, yep, that's good to go. So that security liaison knows that it's coming from someone rather than just the MnCHOICES team, that yes, there should be a security liaison for this application. Once those one or two security liaisons have been added, then they can then submit tickets in. I am not aware of if there is a limit to security liaisons for the SAM team, but your security liaison should know. I mean, you don't want to have piles of them, but you at least, because that, think about it, for on that side, it's just a person who's submitting tickets for access. You can still have other folks have lead agency admin role, but they go through a couple of people who submit tickets in. So they can add staff, add staff, add staff. They can then go to that person and say, please submit tickets for these folks, and then they could do that work. So I think that answers that question. So yes, so have your current security liaison submit a ticket for and follow the protocol, because there's a letter that they have to attach that says, yes, you can add more security liaisons. Then once they've been added, then those people can do tickets. I think I did them all, Karen. I hope I did.
So they're going to submit a ticket to ask to add themselves to MnCHOICES.
They're going to have your current security
They are
liaison
current.
submit a ticket to add new ones.
Right, but the new one, the only ones we have are the new ones who were not on MnCHOICES. They're the only
You
security
don't have any security liaisons currently for your organization for MAXIS or MMIS?
We have two new ones who were not on the onboarding sheet, so they would
Yeah.
submit a ticket for themselves to be added.
Yeah, they won't be able to do the ticket for themselves. So someone who has your Minnesota Service Hub access is going to have to put in the ticket for them. I'm assuming you have someone who does MMIS and MAXIS requests that is a security liaison that will request they be added as security liaisons. Sorry, you were a little soft, so I just wanted to, I'm not trying to be combative. I'm just making sure I heard you.
Well, the two new staff that are doing security liaison work are our security liaisons.
Well, then they're already in
Not
the
on
system
spreadsheet.
as
So
security
do they need to
liaisons.
submit something or not?
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to run over you. So if they are already security liaisons in the system, then what they will do is put in access requests for each other is what I recommend versus putting in their own access request.
Thank you.
Yeah, sorry, I was misunderstanding your question, and you're soft enough that I was afraid I wasn't hearing you correctly, so thanks.
Okay, our next question is from Caitlin McNamara. Caitlin, I'm going to unmute you.
Are able to add bulk users. So is this anybody that's added during the code freeze, or like will we have to add all of our users once it launches?
No, so you won't, if you put them on your onboarding spreadsheet,
Okay,
you don't have to do them again because they went in through a big, large bulk load.
perfect.
This is really for that in-between place, right? Where
Yeah,
from October to April. Yeah.
yeah, that makes sense. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Okay, our next question is from Lynn Bars. Hi, Lynn, I'm going to unmute you.
Good morning. Hi. I'm one of the security liaisons for Medica, and I'm curious to know when we hit that search staff landing page, are we going to get Medica staff as well as all of the delegates assigned under Medica
Yeah.
within that
Yeah,
search?
you will.
Okay.
So it will, when you go to that staff member icon, it'll literally be everyone.
Okay.
Everyone that has a Medica association will be there. Yep.
Gotcha. That's what I was curious about. Thank you.
Yep. You're welcome.
Okay, Jennifer Thering. Hi, Jennifer.
So here in Dodge County, all of our emails have all been updated as of January 1st from our IT. So, I mean, our old one does work for a short time more, but what is the best way to go about with onboarding with new email addresses? We're all the same.
Right, I hear you. So can you remind me, sorry, the agency?
Dodge County.
Okay, so I'm sorry, I think I missed it. So Dodge County has had their naming convention changed on their emails. How long is your naming convention going to remain? Can you like work with your IT and make sure that it remains open till like May the 15th or something, or May the 30th?
I'm pretty sure it's going to be open probably at least for another year. So it sounds
Okay.
like we shouldn't worry about it for the
No,
time
you
being.
shouldn't worry about it. What's nice, right, is that you'll have access to be able to go into your staff and update their emails then after that. But for the sake of making sure they get their activation email and they know what they're doing, you shouldn't have an issue with what you're talking about. Knowing that you've got it open for about a year, then they will still receive them, and then you'll be able to go in and make the changes
All
in the
right,
system.
so the staff will be able to make their own changes with their emails, or will the security liaison have to change the emails?
So right now, security liaison and lead agency supervisor have the ability to make email changes. I can't speak to it more than that because it's one of the pieces so part of what we're working on is reviewing roles and permissions and what we thought they were looking like and what they look like. And that's one of the pieces that I'm asking right now. And so I can't answer it more than that, than to say those two roles have the ability to change emails.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, you're welcome.
Okay, Teresa, we have one more question from Tara Ulrich. Hi, Tara, I'm going to unmute you.
Agency working with two different MCOs. When we have an addition, a change, or removal request, do we notify both plans?
So you have an addition, a change, or a removal. So let's
Yes.
talk about change because I'm anticipating when you say change, something is different on the person's
Name
profile.
change.
Yep.
Mhm.
Name change. Yep. So in that instance, as a delegate supervisor, you should be able to make the name change yourself directly in the system.
Okay.
For additions and removals, you will go to each of the lead agencies and ask them to remove them. Mhm.
Okay. To both. And same
Yep.
with additions, correct?
Correct. Correct.
Great. Thank you.
Yep. You're welcome.
Okay, Teresa, we don't have any more questions for or people who raise their hands.
Okay. So then what?
Do you want me to?
Yeah, you
Go
can
ahead.
look at, I suppose, look at chat and see if there are others. Otherwise, what my intention was going to do was instead to go to talking about how they'll know their accounts are activated. And if from that come other questions, at the end of that, there's time for questions again. And so it may generate some other thinking that people hadn't had until we went through that section. So I guess I would like to go through
Okay.
the slides to make sure we get the content all addressed.
Sounds good. Thanks, Teresa.
Yep. So one thing we want to talk about is, so day of launch, April the 3rd hits. How do you know your staff have access, right? That'd be the first question I'd ask. How do I know my staff have access? They're asking me questions. They're getting emails. I'm not sure what's going on. So I wanted to talk through that with you. For people that were on those onboarding spreadsheets, right? For when they existed on those onboarding spreadsheets, they're going to see an automated message sent. I have March the 31st. I'm wondering if we meant to be March the 30th since that's the day the system goes live, but I'll stick with March the 31st. We're asking them to not log into the system until April the 3rd, okay? Because that's the launch date. And they're going to be locked. their user accounts are going to be locked. So they're going to try, if they try to log in, it's going to tell them, nope, you don't have access. They're going to say to you, I don't have access. And you're going to say to them, don't go in there yet because the system is locked. So if you can help with that message, that would be great. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk through what they're going to see when they get that email. Okay, the steps they're going to take so that you are aware of them, so you can provide support, and so that you can answer questions that they might have. So what will happen is they're going to get this account created notification. It's going to look like this. The blacked out section is going to be their username, and that's going to be their X1 or their PW. Okay. It's going to say, here's your username, here's your reset password, here's the MnCHOICES URL link. Okay. And what they're going to do is they're going to see how it says, please click here to change your password. You'll be asked to input your username and a code will be sent to your email. So that's what they need to follow, is to do that step. So they click on that reset password, they get this. Forgot your password? They're going to put in their X1 or PW and they're going to hit reset my password. It is going to send their email this verification code. So what's going to happen is they're going to get verification code is something, and it'll say that it'll expire in 24 hours. They can then use that MnCHOICES URL link that was in their first email, and they'll enter their verification code, and then they'll create their new password, and it'll ask them to enter it again. And this system will actually tell them if it's matching or not, which I think is a lovely feature. Since we all know fat-fingered typos can make it hard, so you may actually accidentally do it wrong. It will confirm their password, and then they will click the change password button. So, and that will basically once they get done doing this will set them up. They'll be ready to go. So they will be able to use the MnCHOICES URL, enter their X1 and PW number, enter their new password, and be set to log into the system. So they will have everything that they need. So who's going to get this information? It's going to be anybody that was on that original onboarding spreadsheet is going to see this activation pattern specifically because it is what the system is sending out. If you're adding new users, they will get activation notices too after Sam completes their ticket. And so they will follow the instructions in there. But this is for all the people that were in your onboarding spreadsheet. And what I need to say about that is they have until May the 31st to respond to that first email that they get. Because that's when that email will time out. So if they're not in the system right away and they need to wait, till through April, they're getting in end of April or May or something like that, just know that everyone needs to have logged in and activated their accounts by no later than May the 31st. And so anybody that's loaded in by the SAM ticket, like I said, will receive their own communication instructions after April the 3rd when you start sending those requests in. Please don't send in adding people to the revised MnCHOICES application until April the 3rd. We won't have access to the system, nor will you, and so we won't be able to move forward with that until then. So I want to take a few moments and see if you have any questions related to account notification.
We have a question from Jody Lesner. Hi, Jody.
Actually, back to and I probably just missed it, where we had our log that was sent in, and as a security liaison, I've added people since that time. So once we're up and going after the April 3rd, those people can be added to the system, or how do we get them people added? Okay.
Yeah, correct. And so what you can do is, if you have more than 5 people that need to be added to the revised MnCHOICES application, you'll go in the Minnesota Service Hub, do the ticket, and then look for that, the I need access bulk user, MnCHOICES
Okay.
bulk user form. And then you can put a bunch of people all on a ticket up to 25. If it's
Okay.
under 5, then you'll just enter them one at a time. So you'll put them into the MnCHOICES system. You'll put in the Service Hub ticket, and then the SAM team will then activate them. And you
Okay.
can start that anytime after April 3rd or after.
After April 3rd. Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome.
Okay, Christopher Worth, I'm going to unmute you. Hi, Christopher.
I am a security liaison for Itasca County. I also work in the IT department and take care of security issues related to Itasca County, and one of them has to do with phishing emails. So on slide 25, it shows the email message that's going to be sent out to workers, and I have a bit of concern about how generic that message looks. And I suspect a lot of the users in Itasca County are going to flag that email as what's referred to as a phishing attempt. In Itasca County, we have a system that we use for identifying phishing emails and reporting them so we can do security scans on them. So is there a way that we can advocate that this email more identify that it's coming directly from MnCHOICES so users don't flag it and not do this process?
You will probably have to provide, I don't think that we can make any changes to this because this is the way the system is set up for launch. But you could give them instructions, potentially show them this screenshot, as well as note that the vendor's name is specifically in here, feisystems.com. This is the vendor for the revised MnCHOICES application. Remember, this is an off-the-shelf product, so this is the vendor's process for providing verification. So it may be worth your while to take this PDF, make a screenshot of it, and send it out to all of your users and say, you know, on this date, expect to see this email. It is a real email. It's not phishing. And you may also want to, on your end, for your when your system receives emails, if it gets a bunch all at one time, so it doesn't just like stick them somewhere, you may want to then also make sure that you watch for this email address. So it doesn't automatically get stuck in junk somewhere in your system, your IT system.
Well, I'm a little discouraged by that answer. I'm going to say that as a security person.
I understand that, but all I can do is tell you the way that the vendor is doing the notification so that you're aware of it.
And I know it's not your part, but the vendor
Right.
should be smart enough to recognize that as a security issue out in the IT world today. Their email is very generic and it looks very similar to a internet phishing attempt, which could be actually a ransomware attempt on any of the counties. And counties should be aware that that's an issue right now. It's an important issue.
Yep, nope, I hear you. Yep. And that's, I mean, like, again, that's part of why we're showing you the visual. So at least you know what to be aware of and you can notify your staff. I understand we have the same issues with us. We are watching pretty close and report them in too.
Okay, Teresa, can you talk a little bit about when someone's going out on leave, about activating? Do they need to be unactivated, reactivated? What happens if someone goes on a periodic leave?
So if your concern is they're going to be out on leave when the revised MnCHOICES application launches and they're in your onboarding spreadsheet, remember they have until May the 31st. So I don't know how that will affect leave for any reason. But sorry, I'm just thinking it through myself. In general, if they're on leave and they are getting an activation message, if you're adding them new, right? Wait and add them new to when they come back. If they haven't been in the system, if you don't have them on your onboarding spreadsheet, wait and add them when they're getting closer to come back so they will get their activation message. If they're already in the system and they're going to be on leave when the system is set up and it's going to be after May 31st when they come back, then what I would recommend that you do is submit a ticket and ask the SAM team to reactivate them.
So in general, after launch and there's a leave, is there a period of time? Are we able,
So
I'm not sure that we're able to
yeah,
answer that today. Yeah.
sorry, I was understanding what you're saying. So you are, the person is in the system and they go on leave. They will be in the system, so they won't need to be reactivated. So their account won't time out. You will probably give their work to someone else. So I'm not sure that that would affect anything. Am I missing the obvious, Beth? I'm sorry.
Nope, you got it. That was
Okay.
the last part is what I think is addressing the questions that we have.
Okay.
Okay, so we have hands raised again. So Krista Nilsson, I'm gonna unmute you. Hi, Krista.
Sure that for users who would only be in the support plan, so for case managers, they may not need to get into the revision until well after May 31st. So just to clarify, they will still need to go in via this email. So they will be getting this email too. They'll need to activate it, but they might not be getting into the system for a while if they're not getting any assessments created in the revision.
Yeah, so I'll just be really clear about that one for you because I hear the question. Yeah, we need them to be able to log in by that date and activate themselves. We understand they are later in the system and they may not be using it right away. It's not going to time out once they've activated themselves, set up their username and password. They just need to make sure they do that by May the 31st. Okay?
Thank you.
And then they can just go back in and work whenever it fits into their workflow.
Okay, Leah from Elliott.
To the
Hi, Leah.
passwords. Hi, my questions regard to the passwords themselves. I looked in the manual and there's nothing that indicates required minimum length, maximum length, strength, or anything. Is there a document out there for that?
Leah, it'll actually provide it in the prompt when they do their password reset. They'll get it'll give them instructions and it's pretty lengthy. It'll say, you know, you don't have any special characters. You may need to make sure you have this. So it's part of that. I didn't add it in the slide. I forgot about it, but yes, it will prompt them.
Okay, it just helps them to know ahead of time what they're going to use and to try to figure it out on the fly.
Right. Yep, I hear you.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, Michelle Fisher. Hi, Michelle.
I understand that new users cannot be added until launch, but can changes be made to people that we had sent in October before?
Yeah, so your question is, can you make changes to people before launch? So you can't make changes to people before launch, but as of launch date, you can go into the system and make changes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Truth, I think we can move forward.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure that we had a chance to.
Oh,
go ahead.
We do have one more question. Sorry. Lynn Barth. Let me unmute you. Hi, Lynn.
I just have one more question regarding the bulk onboarding. So between October and launch, we've been adding people for access to the RS tool. None of those people are going to be pulled and put into MnCHOICES, so we definitely need to put them on the bulk transfer list, correct?
Correct.
Okay, I just wanted to be sure on that.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep, I get that. Thanks. Yeah, this is a good time to ask all those questions so you see if you have a chance to think them thorough, right? But you're more than welcome to ask them on the help desk ticket for MnCHOICES if you come up with things later and you wonder. It is perfectly okay to do that as well. or refer back to this document.
Teresa, can you just back us up a little bit to the dates, the password? Well, folks can't log in until 4/3. Is there a time that we're setting up? There's nothing that they need, the timeline for which you want them to start this work.
So I will see if I can help you understand the dates a little bit better. Sorry, I'm trying to figure out which slide it's on so you don't have to watch me whirl through them all. So I've got it up on the other screen and I'm looking at it. So let's just take a moment. Okay, so I can just go back a slide, I guess. So passwords, and so there are two different pieces in here, okay? I'm gonna just go back even further. We're just gonna go back to here. This one is gonna get sent out from the system right away, okay? On March the 31st, this will get sent out, okay? When they choose to activate it, which has to be done before May the 31st, and only then will they click reset password. If they click reset password, then they have that they're going to get this verification code, and it only lasts 24 hours. So as long, so what they'll do is anytime up to May 31st, they can log in, they can click that link and start the process. But once they start the process, then they need to use their verification code and finish it. So this is only contingent upon when they choose to respond to the first email. So I just want to make sure I say that. And then their password stays. So then they create their password and that password is good. It won't expire. If they're not in it for 3 months because they're finishing up their old work, it's not going to affect their password for the revised MnCHOICES application. It won't time out and they won't have to set a new one. But they'll probably want to put it somewhere safe so that they remember it when they do get ready to log in and use the application. I think that answers the question.
It does, thank you. Okay, so we have another hand raised from Heather Hoff.
Hey, sorry, I was going back to the bulk request, and I know there was a question someone else answered in the chat that hadn't been answered for this as well. For the bulk request that we'll be able to use, is there going to be in Service Hub on that form? Is there going to be a template there for us?
Yeah, there is.
Okay.
So let me see if I can. Sorry, it's not so easy to go backwards in this. So what will happen is you'll do request now and then the bulk form will come up.
Okay.
Okay.
And that, because I'm not seeing that out there now, I'm assuming that won't show up until April 3rd.
Correct. Yep.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome. See, I knew this user access stuff would then get your minds perking and we'd need to go back. So that's good.
Teresa, is anything with these requests expedited, or are we expecting the SAM team to still follow their current process?
SAM team is set to follow their, you know how when you put in a user request, it's so many days before the request has to be finished. They're following that. But if you have folks that need to get in it today, I would do a single ticket so they don't get stuck in the bulk, because then you know for sure you'll get the required time. You also need to know that because we realize there's going to be a bunch of new users at the beginning, that DHS and SAM are working together, and the DHS is dedicating 2 staff people to the SAM team, and we are working as a team to work through access requests because we know that you have a bunch of users and we know we need to be timely about them. But I would say if you have a very specific staff person that needs to get in right away, that you do it as a single access request and not put them in the bulk, because then, you know, they'll get done with while the rest of the group is getting done. That's just my recommendation to you.
Thanks, Teresa. Okay, Kim Perko, you are next in the queue. Hi, Kim.
Two questions, and perhaps I missed part of the answer to this. So MnCHOICES is set to launch April 3rd, which is a Monday, I realize. But with this onboarding, is it possible, if anybody across the state with the security liaisons is interested, is there any possibility of them doing any of the onboarding on the weekend prior to the 3rd? And if that is not an option, is there a set time on the 3rd that they would be able to begin? Let's say, for instance, this is my second question, because let's say, for instance, we have a security liaison here that starts at 7 a.m. Do they have to start at 8, or is there any set time on the 3rd that they would have to begin doing this onboarding? Because we've got lots of folks,
Yep,
you know, all of us
I hear
that
you.
need to be onboarding, and the concern is getting these done timely. That
Yep,
if
no.
we start at 7 or 6 o'clock in the morning and want to get these started, is there a set time on the 3rd if they can't do them the weekend before to get these started?
So I'm going to have to ask that question because it's really two pieces of timing. It's when does FEI systems unlock them on that morning? And when does the SAM team ticket become live? It's both of those. And I actually don't have an answer for that, but I'm happy to look it up and communicate it out. But I don't know the timing and how they coordinate between the two. But I am happy to ask the question and get back to people.
And you'll be asking both of those, correct? Whether
Yeah.
they can do those on the weekend prior, as well as how early on Monday morning if we can't do them on the weekend, if anybody's interested in doing that.
I'm going to ask the SAM team, when will the bulk user form and the MnCHOICES request ticket be available? They're going to say April the 3rd, but I don't know the time. But I will ask it anyways, so that we do know the time.
Okay.
And then secondly, I will ask FEI systems when their unlock occurs so that you can load people, so you can add people in the system.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome. Thanks for asking that question.
Okay, our next question is from David Walford.
Hi, it unmuted me, but I think it cut out on
We
meeting.
can hear you.
You.
We can
Okay.
hear you just fine.
So back to the bulk form. I understand that it's being built, it's being made ready to be in the system, but it would be most helpful to understand two things. Number one, what is the information that we are going to be required to put into that bulk form? And number two, what are the formats that are going to be available for us? Because we would like to be able to prepare our bulk forms for submission prior to April 3rd, recognizing we won't be able to do it before.
Right, because David, you're thinking then you would just basically copy and paste it into the form.
As close as possible to something
Right.
like that, because
Yep.
we will, we're going to have, like everyone, a lot of people to get ready, and that takes time, especially coordinating with contracted agencies.
I will see if I can find that out. So what I heard you ask, just to make sure I got it right, is what format are they using and kind of like what is the info? So if you had the format and how it was laid out in order, then you would then make sure that your data is collected in that order so that you can put it in that form.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
And also to know what we don't have to go out and collect, because
correct. Yep. That's fair.
Every single one of those fields we don't have to get is multiplied multiple times over by the number of users and agencies to work with. So.
Yep. Understood. I will work to get that back out to folks.
Thank you.
With the previous answer. So thank you for asking it.
Thank you. Teresa, just on bulk forms really quickly. Or would you recommend that they use bulk forms to remove users?
They can't use it for removing users, only adding users. To remove users, they have to use the ticketing system one at a time.
Okay, thanks. Okay, we have a question from Kristen S. Kristen?
A question that about the bulk transfer or the bulk load. It sounds like it's going to be manual entry like it is now, but we will just be doing many at once. Or can we load like a CSV file into the bulk user load?
So I got to make sure that we're talking similar language. So when I talk about bulk user request, it literally is like a ticket that says, Mary Jo, here's her PW, here's her handling Minnesota courses, here's the roles I want her to have. Okay, it's not actually taking that data and then loading it into the system. And it's specific form that Sam has used to create that access request. So it's literally just an access request.
Okay, so we won't be able to like attach a spreadsheet, for example.
I'm only hesitant because I don't want to promise something. I believe that the bulk user request form is a spreadsheet. That's part of what you heard David ask. What format is it and what order is it in?
Right.
And
Okay.
rather than answering and being incorrect, that's why you hear my hesitation. I want to make sure I have it right.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, our next question is from Andrea Morrison.
So my question
Hi.
is about the email that's going to be coming out for people to change their passwords. I heard you say it's coming on March 31st, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And will people be able to respond to email on March 31st, or do they need to wait until April 3rd?
So the slide in the presentation says that it'll be locked, so they can't respond back to it till April the 3rd.
Okay.
If they try, they're going to get a not authorized message.
Okay. I just wanted to be able to give instructions to our
Yep.
users. And then I'm sure you're going to address this before the end of the webinar, but want to make sure that I get the question asked about the new training platform, if and when that will be ready.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, and you know what? I can go ahead and answer. Let me go look at my slides. After a while, I lose track of stuff. I will talk about a little bit in a few slides. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, you're welcome.
Okay, Teresa Leah Cornelius.
Cornelius. Yes, one more
Cornelius,
password
thank
question.
you, sorry.
You're welcome. One more password question. How long is this password good? Not the temporary one, but once they create their password, are they going to be prompted every so many days to change that, or how is that going to work?
The answer that we have gotten from the system administrator on it to date is that it doesn't change.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Teresa, one more question from Caitlin McNamara.
Hi, just real quick, I want to go back really quick to the lead agency admin role and like production, adding staff and managing access. All of the entry of like the person's name, email, phone number, can that all be done by a supervisor, and then the request to the Minnesota Service Hub be done by the security liaison, or does the security liaison have to do both of those pieces?
No, so your agency could determine that you're going to have a supervisor have a lead agency admin, security admin role, We had originally thought about calling it security liaison, but we determined that you may choose to have two different people, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you could have a supervisor have that lead agency admin role, and you're giving them permission to add all your staff in. And then once all the staff are in, then they could say to the person, okay, go ahead and submit a ticket. You know, you could even
Right.
potentially have them fill out the bulk user form and then give it to the security liaison to attach to the ticket.
Right.
Mhm.
Yep. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. You just need to know that with that person, they have the ability, of course, to add users and set up roles and set up locations. So you really want to make sure you think about who should have that ability to do that.
Teresa, we have a question from Travis Knudsen.
A quick comment.
Hi, Travis.
I'm not sure if the panelists are seeing questions going into the Q&A sidebar. And then I have a question about the email notification. The screenshots provided show a different sender for the new account and for the password reset notifications. Will those be consistent as they're sent out from the system, or do we need to train users to be looking for different senders?
I would say train them for the screenshots that I provided you.
Okay. And then secondly, kind of thinking about the password reset, it looks like it's got a challenge with a one-time PIN, if you will, which is great. How is multi-factor authentication implemented on this application for regular sign-ins?
So, boy, I don't feel like I'm the person that can even answer that. So, what, and you're using IT language that I'm afraid that I'll misunderstand, I guess is the piece where you're hearing me hesitate. When you say multi-user authentication, please say more about what you mean about that. Because what the system will do, right, is when they go to log in, they'll have to put their X1 or PW in, and they will have to put their password in, which is very specific to them. Then once they log in that far, then they hit the acknowledge button. And then after that, if they work for more than one location as a staff member, then they will have to pick the organization they work for, the location they work for, and pick themselves. If they only work for your agency, if they only work for a county, let's say, then after they hit the acknowledge button, it will allow them to be in. But it takes both the X1 or PW number and their password to authenticate that they can log in. And we chose X1s and PWs because they are unique system identifiers, something that SAM creates and provides and specific to a person. I'm hoping that answers your question. And it's currently how they do our current systems, both the assessment and the support plan.
So Travis muted, and I can't unmute him because he lowered his hand. And so I'm not sure if there he is again. Hi. Okay, Travis, I'm gonna unmute you again. Thank you.
Thank you. Yep. Sorry. So multi-factor authentication, right? It's typically you put in a username and password, but then there's another factor, right? You have a phone authenticator, security token, SMS, out of band, like 4 to 6 digit code.
Yeah.
That might be email. So that's what we think of when we think of multi-factor authentication. I don't know what your regulatory requirements are, but I guess I assumed that would be in scope. It sounds like it's not. So thank you.
Yep.
Beth, we have a question from Don. Oh, do you want to move forward?
Yeah, no, go ahead and I'll take this question, and then I think I just need to make sure we get through everything so that people get time to ask other questions too.
Okay, Don Sullivan.
Hi, Don.
This is Don. Thank you. I have one more question. Thinking back to the kind of earlier slides about the lead agency admin role versus the SAM ticket in the Minnesota Service Hub, if we have a county delegate who they're doing like fee for service case management and they're an MCO care coordinator, would we have to do both parts, the lead agency admin work in MnCHOICES and the SAM ticket? Or would the lead agency admin kind of setting them up be done by the county fee for service side, and then we would just pick up the SAM ticket to get them set up with UCare-County?
So you're asking a blended access request piece. So if I am working as a county and I'm also a delegate to an MCO, okay? For when I work for the county will add me as staff for the county. They'll put in a ticket for me for the county. When I'm working for you as a delegate, you'll put me in as into the system, and you'll actually be able to, so you'll put me in the system, and then when you submit the ticket into the SAM team, they'll be able to look for them in the system and link them to your organization, because they may already exist in the system working for someone else also.
So would I also have to do the new staff member, like putting in their name and last name and gender and job title and all that? Or could I find them in MnCHOICES and be like, oh, they're already set up, so I'm just going to do my SAM?
You have to add them, because what you're doing is you're not adding them to the application database. You're adding them to your organization, and then the SAM team finds them in the database and connects the record together, so they'll have multiple associations.
Okay, so that would go the same if they're a delegate and they work with multiple MCOs. They have to be set up by, Medica, the Blues, and UCare.
Correct.
If they do all three.
Yep.
Perfect. Thank you for figuring that one out with me. I appreciate it.
Sure, not a problem. Beth, I'm going to go ahead and make sure we get to these next ones, because I want to make sure we get through what people need to know, get to ask all of their questions, because this continues to be technical. And so I don't want to give one section more time than the other, but I want to make sure we have timeliness and enough time. So I want to take a minute to talk about historical data during that transition period, right, between April 3rd and August the 31st, specifically because I want to make sure you understand how that data is going to get captured, and a couple of nuances that we want to make sure you understand. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is say we sent out an e-list that talked about the transition period, and I caught when I was reading it that we used the word completed, and we know in the support plan if a form is complete, it isn't closed. And I wanted to make sure that you know for the transition period from April 3 to August the 31st, that any documents, CSP, CSSP, rate plans for elderly waiver residential services tool, all have to have the status of closed to be able to be loaded as attachments to a person record. Okay. So I wanted to correct the record on that in case you read that and say, oh, they changed what they're talking about. No, our message is the MnCHOICES kind of technical team to the application remains the same. They need to be in closed status. I just wanted to correct the record for that. Secondly, I expect that you're going to be adding some new people in the MnCHOICES assessment application. And that what we need you to know is that you'll need to also add them in the revised MnCHOICES application, because if you don't, they won't exist and there won't be any person for those historical PDFs to find to attach a record to. Okay, I'll talk about that a little bit more in the next slide. I'm talking slowly about it because if you're like me, it takes a little bit to absorb what the heck did she just say. And like I said, I'll do another slide about it. Okay. So what's going to happen is if you add a new person in the old system in the MnCHOICES assessment so that you can do work either in the support plan or so that you can complete an assessment, you will also want to go to the revised MnCHOICES application the next day and search for the person. You may find that that when you get to step 3, you're going to put some basic information and search for them, that when you get to step 3, they're going to find a match in the system and then bring that data forward. If a match doesn't exist, you'll want to add a person, but we anticipate that because you've added them in the MnCHOICES assessment application, the next day when you go into the revised MnCHOICES application, when you get to this step, in the adding a new person that you'll see the person. And what we need you to do is then create, say, yep, that's fine. Select your person, say, yep, create the person. And what that will do again is for any of those forms that are in a status of closed, it'll give them a person to attach to for this period of time. Because we anticipate there'll be new assessments for new people, and we want to make sure that that historical data that's sitting in the MnCHOICES assessment application and the MnCHOICES support plan application have a person and that they're attached to that person so that you have the ability to review that data. And so we wanted to make sure that you understood that, were aware of it, and had an idea on what it would look like and how that would occur. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go through my next few slides, and then I will allow time for questions. So if you're looking at any of these 2 slides and you want to quick write down a question or think about it some more, please go ahead and do that. But I'm going to go through the next ones and then we'll do questions as a total for that. I just wanted you to be able to get your head around this a little bit. So we've been hearing questions about creating new people. We have a little bit of information about MTZ, and we wanted to talk a little bit about offline mode because those are the questions that you have been asking about. So creating a new person, we've been hearing conversation about PMI and social security number. And I talked to you about that I would understand the data flow a little bit better so that we could help you understand as well. Okay. So like the MnCHOICES assessment and support plan, the database Swindex is what loads all the MnCHOICES database information. And it basically picks up the information from SSIS, MAXIS, and MMIS and makes sure that it's all loaded into the MnCHOICES application. For all existing people, that happens on a nightly load. For new people, that load is the first week of the month. We, of course, don't want you to wait when you add new people. And so you would be able to add any new people if you had a social security number or PMI. And then Swindex will update those people records when it loads the first week of the month. So I just tried to do this as a decision tree as a method to not create confusion. So to create a new person for PMI, you aren't required to have, so if you have either a PMI or social security number, of course you can create a new person. If you don't have a social security or PMI, of course you will need to go to MAXIS and create a PMI. What we have learned from speaking to the MAXIS folks is social security number is not required to create a PMI, and that once MAXIS has the request, it gives a PMI and it updates MMIS in real time. And the reason why that matters, I'll explain shortly. Because I want to make sure you hear that we heard you and we wanted to get this progression of data correct. So we're hearing you say that there are a small group of people either homeless, leaving a nursing home and need an expedited assessment where you don't have either a social security number or PMI. And those are just 2 examples of people that I'm using, okay? One of the things that we want you to think about is creating an expedited PMI process for when that happens so that you can have whoever's creating your PMIs enter people in and then provide them to your staff so that they can create the assessment. And so that's what this is talking about, is this is something that we recommend, knowing how the system is working. The other piece that I want to remind you of is that some of your staff, though they aren't the person who's entering PMI, putting in the request, they have ways that they can look at what the PMI for the person is. And so one piece that we wanted to remind you of is that DHS worked with MAXIS to create that INSW read-only role. And so you could provide your certified assessors or anyone else, I put intake and case aides in here for an example, and request they have that MAXIS NISW role prior to launch so that when a PMI has been requested, knowing that some systems are large, they could go in and look at Maxis and see when the PMI has been created so that they can pull that information and use it to create a person. Okay. Then the other piece to know is if they also had MMIS access, they could do similar. So whether they got it from Maxis or MMIS, they could go in, if they had view access, find the PMI and be able to get it without having to try to figure out how to connect with a financial worker or whoever else is putting those requests in, and would be able to monitor it and get the PMI. The piece that's going to be tricky here, right, and this is something you guys already understand, is the PMI has to be accurate when they enter it into MnCHOICES when they enter a new person, because the PMI will be used to compare to Swindex for data and updates for data. Because Swindex, when it does load, new people will go back and look for that PMI as a match to load. And so it will be important that the PMI is accurate and there aren't any errors in it. And I know that feels obvious, but I just needed to be able to say it so that we made sure that that was clear. So I wanted to just let you know that we had heard your concerns. We did some digging to find out how the data flowed, looked for methods that you could potentially find PMI, knowing that oftentimes staff is not the requester, but they need to know. And we tried to give you 2 methods to be able to find that information out so that you could add people. I want to talk a little bit about browser use, but I'm going to talk about it just real brief, and the reason why is I want you to know that I know there's been some concerns about browsers and clearing cache and offline mode, and you need to know that this week the county IT group and FEI systems are meeting to have a conversations and answer some questions the IT folks have. And so we anticipate we will have clearer instructions after that meeting. So I don't want to get deep into this, okay? So we're not going to have a long conversation about is browser cache a good idea or not, and all of that stuff, because we're going to let FEI systems and your IT folks do it. And we have heard your concerns and we have been passing them forward, which is part of why this meeting is occurring, okay? But what I do want to tell you is that there are a couple of items with browsers that you need to be aware of. If you're using Safari, it does have a 7-day inactivity date and it will delete storage, browser storage. So we just wanted you to be aware of that in case you have to do some kind of different set for Safari. And we wanted to make sure that if you were using in private browsing, when in offline mode, that it isn't compatible and that you shouldn't be using it. Here's what I know, and here's what the group is having conversation with DHS IT and county IT and FEI systems. Is we know the offline forms are loaded into the browser's IndexedDB file. Okay, that's where they're stored. And so what happens is clearing cache removes those indexed files. And so we are aware of that, and we are having the agencies review it. We are asking the county IT alignment group to provide very specific technical specification instructions to other IT folks about this. What you see ahead of me is some of the things that we're putting in front of them, and we're expecting that there will be changes back. So I'm not going to read through them all. I expect that we will see changes on them, but I wanted you to know that we are providing information, telling them what we know from the vendor, giving them a chance to talk to the vendor, and then to create updates to technical specifications. Okay. The other piece that we're looking at for potential instructions is hotspots if agencies use them, And then also to make sure that we differentiate. There are two different ways of taking forms offline. You can take your form offline and leave your browser open, but shut your computer, lock it, right? And then go out in the field. Or you could choose to X out of your browser and shut down your laptop. And we're making sure that the Smart Guide instructions are clear about each of those options and what you might see that is different. The other piece that we learned just this week is that Edge does have an auto clearing cache toggle button. And so we're talking about how to show that and add that to instructions. So you have to make sure the toggle button is off. So if you've been using Edge and are having issues with offline mode, it might be what's causing it, just so that you're aware. But again, I've got a communication that I'm hoping will go out early next week about it. With a little more detail, but I want to make sure it gets in front, all the instructions get in front of the IT group before I send something out to you. And rather than having to then make changes to those instructions based on what they tell us. So I want to wait a little bit on that. The other piece I want you to know is the MTZ that you are currently using. We are finding that it has had offline permission issues. That's why you're having challenges with it. And what we've been doing with the new platform is we've been going through and identifying those permission issues, because permissions are something we can actually fix. It doesn't require a release. And so we have been finding those permission issues, collecting those issues, fixing them, and then testing them. That's part of why you've been waiting for the new MTZs, because we've been looking at permission issues that you've been having, that we've been able to say, yep, that's a permission issue, that shouldn't be happening. And we have been working through fixing them and testing them and resolving them. So that's part of why you're feeling this weight that you're experiencing with the new platform, is we're trying to resolve some of those pieces before you receive the new URL. And the question that you're going to have is, when are you going to receive that new URL for the new platform? It is my understanding that decision making is happening yet this week. I know that we are poised to be able to send that to you once that decision making has been made. And so I will, at that point, kind of leave it at that. Coming soon is something I know you don't appreciate. I understand not appreciating it, but please know we are closer to it than we have been in the past. Because of the permission changes, we're feeling like this, the new platform will improve that functionality for you. So this is the last question slide in the slide deck. So Beth, I would be open to taking questions.
Okay, our first question is from Kristen Nelson.
Yes, I just wanted to clarify, you had mentioned that all documents need to be in a closed status prior to launch in order for information to be pulled into the new system.
So for that period of transition, they need to be in closed status. What will happen is this job is going to start running monthly. At the end of the month, it'll start running monthly to add the new historical data to the person's attachment. It's running right now, creating those attachments regularly. So for that period, April 3 to August 31, that job will be running in the background. It will look for closed documents, and then it'll create historical PDFs.
Okay. So
prior to that, it's already working on doing that.
okay. So for support plans, so we're trying to figure out what kind of a message we need to send to people who are case managers. So does there need to be a message around ensuring that all CSSPs are closed by like March 30th in order to pull into the new system by April 3rd?
I wouldn't be so worried about that piece of it. No, I'm just going to talk out loud about it so we can think about it together.
Okay.
So to think about it, right, the MnCHOICES assessment and the support plan are going to be up and open until the message is saying August the 31st, right? That's what we're saying to you. So they have access and can go back and work and, you know, do what they need to do based on our direction and our transition instructions during that period. I would say what matters more is by the time the systems retire, they should have those documents closed so that they become historical documents and go into a person's record. They may need to work in them, right? During this transition period. So you
Right.
don't want to close them too early, though you could copy information over. So you may want to leave them open. You just need to pay attention to, especially in August, that any documents that need to be closed so that you have them for historical records are closed. That's the date
Okay.
I would pay attention to.
Right.
Does that make sense?
So any ones that so if it, case manager knows that you're not going to do any work in in a CSSP after March 30th, then it might make sense to close it. Let's say, for example, there's going to be an upcoming assessment or something like that. But if there's a thought that you might need to do some work in a support plan before August, you might want to leave it open so that you can do some work in it.
You could leave it in a complete status,
In a
but I want
complete
to make sure
status.
that I'm only talking functionality. I want to make
Right.
sure that I'm not giving heart palpitations to policy, right?
Right.
So from a
Right.
functionality standpoint, yes, you could. Is there anything that policy would want to caution the two of us on or we need to be aware of?
Teresa, I would just say follow your current process and timelines. Close your support plan when you're done working on it, as you do now. So I would just follow current process.
I do have one other question too, unrelated to this. I just want to confirm whether or not the support plans will be able to work offline. I don't believe that that functionality is available in the training zone, but will that
They
be
will be able to.
okay?
That was one of the permission issues that we have been working on resolving. And so when you receive the new MTZ URL, you will be able to take support plans, assessments, and HRAs offline. So and we know support plan has been having some permission issues, it's one that we've resolved.
Okay.
We tested them all this week.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, you're welcome.
Okay, Bonnie Daredal. Hi, Bonnie, you're unmuted. I think we answered Bonnie's question. Jessica Nicholson, you are next.
I just have two questions, I guess. So the known issues webinar that you hosted on February 22nd, do you know when the playback of that will be available in the archives? I've had some staff who wanted to listen to it themselves.
Ellen, do you know when it will be posted?
I would guess probably early next week.
Okay, thank you. And then, just I hate to kind of nag on the new training zone environment, but we had told our staff to put a pause on completing their training so that they'd not have to duplicate things and do stuff in the old environment and the new. Teresa, can you give any advice? Should we just tell staff to just get started, or if they think they'd have time to get through all of their required trainings once it launches, should they wait? I'm just looking for some direction on what we should tell our staff.
I hear you. It's a tough one, right? What I've been saying to folks who have certified assessors who need to get certified is like, go get it done in the current MTZ, because at that point they're really learning the basics, right? They're learning how to search for a person, how to create a person, how to assign, how to create their form. They're just getting the basics down. There's nothing when they do their first bit of training that is kind of any in-depth, or are they going to practice probably in any great detail. So I don't think there's any harm in doing that in the current system. I think where it gets maybe a little bit tricky, right, is if I took the time to really create an in-depth assessment or create an in-depth support plan, and now I don't have that available to then either copy over or revise or practice other things. But I think for the basic training, there's no reason why they can't do it in that system. They're not going to lose a lot of data. Yeah, they're probably going to have to create a person again and create a form again, but those are good skills to practice. And by no means am I minimizing the amount of work that does. So please don't get me wrong on that. But I know as staff for DHS, we have had to do things over and over and over again too, and it's been good practice for us. So I think I would do the, if they just need to get their training started and get a sense of it, and then be able to then take it and continue to apply it in a deeper level at the new application. I don't think they're going to lose a lot in it. And for case managers in particular, their duplicate assessments will live in both applications. They will just have to start from scratch with that duplicate assessment to create a support plan.
Okay.
So that's kind of
All
how I would split the hair.
right. Okay. That makes sense. Thank you.
Hey, and then one thing I want to say about those duplicate assessments, just so I say it out loud, is you're able to take and copy, or you're able to take them and create a support plan. We have seen that you can't take those duplicate assessments and create a reassessment. And the reason for that is when they were created, a release has happened between that time. And so they don't copy into reassessments. So if you're getting errors about that when you're trying to, instead of going from a support plan and then deciding you want to create a reassessment and use that data, they will not transfer that data over. You'll have to basically start from scratch on that. So I've seen it come in a couple times recently because I know you're busy practicing kind of those next steps, and I just wanted you to be aware of it.
Teresa, I just clarified for that it's not all releases, but that would happen if it's a specific kind or a specific thing that happened to the system in this circumstance.
So Beth, we can't understand you at all, just so you know. Uh-oh, somebody's off mute and I'm getting an echo. Sorry, Beth, you just sounded like you were in the basement.
Sorry, Teresa, I'm having some audio issues. Let's just go on to the next call for April.
Okay.
Hi, I am just. Am I echoing?
I think you're okay.
I have clarification. Could you explain the difference between the nightly uploads that are going to be happening and then the monthly uploads? Just clarification. And then what day will those monthly uploads be happening, just so we can kind of push our health plans to get us our enrollment, because we don't get enrollment the same day of the month?
So for health plans, the monthly load, here's how I understand it. Where the monthly load for new people affects is PMI, okay? And so if you have new staff, if you have new people, I don't have the date for believe it or not, for what day of the week is it? I keep hearing the 3rd and the 5th, and I'm guessing it's based on the Wednesday or the Friday. But I've been trying to get this clarified for some time. I've talked to many systems people to get this data flow even as far as we have it. So I'm sorry I can't answer it. But the reason why this happens is because new people then will have their PMIs, then they push the data to the Swindex basically verifies the person in Maxis and MMIS and then loads to the data to the MnCHOICES database. And this piece is not, this Swindex load is not related. All of Swindex is not related to MnCHOICES. It's related to how Swindex works. So it's outside of MnCHOICES. It just is how it functions.
Okay, so hopefully we can push our health plans to get us our enrollment earlier in the month, because sometimes we don't get it till the 10th. So hopefully that helps us get it to earlier. And so we don't have to manually upload all of our enrollments. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, Jen Spindler.
I am just wondering if I understand that the documents that are in M&A are going to be transferred as an attachment document to the revision on August 31st. However, is there a difference in how the documents are being auto-loaded by DHS or users attaching the documents in the revision? Obviously, it's more efficient to have the documents roll into the new system, you know, as a batch, but really is there going to be a difference in functionality or use of those documents, the way it's viewed? Because the way I understand it, that's not going to be information that's going to be like auto-populated into the assessment or anything.
So I will try to answer your question because I think I know where you're going, but if I don't get there, please let me know. So the data that will be loading from your historical data that will be going attached to a person will look, when you are in the new URL, if you look for Delford Johnson, we have examples of the attachments and how they will look. I'm sitting here trying to log in and talk to you at the same time, and I'm not having much luck. So you will get to see what they look like. You'll be able to take those PDFs and basically download them and then look at the information, and if you needed to copy and paste them. But of course, we will ask you to make sure that you verify the data is, you know, the most updated, that you really do need to copy it, you know, all of that normal stuff that we say. So and the system will automatically attach it to the person, find it and attach it, so you won't have to do any work on attaching it yourself. Did I answer the questions? I'm sorry, I'm not very good at searching and answering at the same time. I'm trying to bring Delford up so I can show you.
No, that's okay. I guess in simple terms, is there a difference between as if a user in the MnCHOICES revision uploads and attaches a document to a person file?
I hear you.
Okay.
So right. So in this case, all of these are samples that we've attached. Okay. So what this one is about what is very close proximity to what this document will look like when the sorry, we are having some slowness issues with the new MTZ, and then I'm getting this, so I can't explain why. I'm just saying that. So this is kind of what a system attachment will look like. Okay, this is Delford's CSP. We chose Delford because he's always been one of our model CSPs and CSP content, so that you're using something that maybe you have seen before. So this is kind of what this will look like. And then in regards to what does it look like differently, please know the lovely part about MTZ is that you can practice adding attachments and see what they look like yourselves. You don't have to wait for us to demo it if you want to get a sense of what it looks like. So you could, please, of course, don't load real data, but like if you wanted to load a blank form, a blank, gosh, I don't know, a Blake Tennyson form or something else that you wanted to do, you could. But in this instance, this is another form that's been added. It's a MnCHOICES assessment report. And so you can see that Amy has added this in. So part of what's nice about the training zone is there's no reason why you can't practice adding attachments. Of course, like I said, have them blank or not be real people's information, but practice them and see what they look like when they're added. They pretty much look exactly like you've put them in as, so you shouldn't see much difference. And I see that we are at 12:03. What I would like to do before we end today is I would like to make sure that I say to you that we are scheduled for a call-in session, next Monday. I will send out instructions for that call-in session probably in the morning that day. And as you know, stuff sits in the archive page and we will record that session and put it there as well. Our goal is to spend some time demoing offline mode so you can get a sense of how it works when the permissions are repaired. And then we will also be looking at, are there other items that we could provide you a demo on that would get you a little more comfortable with that current functionality document and how to use it in regular workflow. So that's kind of some of the pieces that we're thinking about for that call-in session. Otherwise, the rest of the session is for yours to call in and ask questions. So I want to make sure that I say thank you for today's call. As always, it was good to speak with you. It was nice to have conversation and make sure we really understood each other. And so we very much appreciate the opportunity to really talk and listen to each other. And so we wanted to say thank you, and we look forward to seeing those of you that want to attend the call-in session on Monday. Those really are just your chance to ask questions and us to provide answers specific to training around the revised MnCHOICES application. So thank you, everybody. We are at time, and I'm going to have us go ahead and close today's session. Alan, you can stop recording.